Good afternoon. Today we look at the triangular power struggle between China, Taiwan, and the United States. The reason why this topic is important to look at is because the US's new president, Donald Trump, has a polar approach to the Sino-American relationship compared to former President Obama, which could lead to high tensions between the two core nations of the United States and China. But most notable about this topic is how it will affect Taiwan's strive for total independence from China. In order to go in depth with this subject, first it is important to go over a little bit of history of the situation. According to an article titled China-Taiwan Relations, produced by the Council of Foreign Relations, the pursuit of Taiwan's liberation from the mainland began around the year 1949, when Chinese nationalists fled to the island after losing a revolutionary war with Chinese communists. Since then, the island's inhabitants have politically governed themselves, hold democratic elections, and even have their own market economy. However, China has always viewed Taiwan as part of its country and refused to recognize it as its own sovereign nation. The issue holds great significance because it could help us analyze the true political and potential military power of both the United States and China. The United States has gained many criticism over the years due to its intimidating characteristics as a superpower. With such infamy gained, it can be anticipated that this distinguished behavior of the United States will be portrayed in foreign media and used against us. Which leads me to my research questions for this topic. 1. Will Taiwan appeal to the identity of the United States as a superpower in a positive manner in their media to show support for their diplomatic ties with our nation? Number 2. How will the Chinese government respond to Trump's proposed collaboration with Taiwan, as well as his aggressive political style? Number 3. Will the tensions between China and the United States foreshadow the rise of a new superpower? The methodology for this research segment included an online periodical checkup of 3 main news outlets, one from each of the nations. These news stations were CNN for the US, Focus Taiwan for Taiwan, and CCTV English for China. A total of 10 online news articles were collected for this research. 7 from Focus Taiwan, 1 from CNN, and 2 from CCTV English. The time frame for collecting these articles was from January 17th to April 22nd. Other online articles, 3 in total, were used for analytical purposes, that is, to gather information and make sense of the geopolitical situation between these 3 players in this Sino-American relationship. I used 2 articles from the Council of Foreign Relations and 1 article from MacroGeo. The purpose of collecting news articles from each country was to compare and contrast the media tactics by each major network in their respective areas. These tactics include the amount of coverage on the issue, political bias, government ownership and its influence on the news network, and framing of each nation reported by another. For example, how does the Chinese media portray Taiwan in their news? After gathering all the news articles necessary for my research, it was time to then analyze each of the news sources and compare and contrast their characteristics. Let's start with Focus Taiwan, formerly known as the Central News Agency. Focus Taiwan is Taiwan's national news agency. According to their website, the agency is publicly owned and independently run. Looking at the first article that I used, titled Taiwan Will Pursue Closer Economic Ties with the US, President Tsai, it is evident that the news network is portraying the United States in a favorable manner while making Taiwan look like an organized, peaceful, and autonomous ally to the United States. The article quotes President Tsai in regards to the partnership between the US and Taiwan, quoting, "Taiwan will remain one of the most important, reliable, and trustworthy partners of the United States." End quote. It is important to note that A, the article relies heavily on the quotes of the Taiwanese president, and B, that it reiterates the peaceful and cohesive bonds between the United States and Taiwan. Other articles that I found to be noteworthy were ones that were published recognizing strategic US military presence in the Taiwan province. In the article titled U.S. Marines to be posted at the new AIT compound in Taipei, ex-director. There is a heavy reliance on quotes from former director of the American Institute in Taiwan, claiming he supports and desires military protection from the Institute. The article uses quotes from the former director such as symbolic expression and U.S. commitment to its friends in Taiwan. The article mentions that the U.S. still holds only unofficial ties with Taiwan, but mentions this move to be, quote, an indication of warm relations between the U.S. and Taiwan, end quote. In the other articles I analyzed, two reference the military strategy of Taiwan. One in particular that I want to focus on was one titled Taiwan's Military Shifting to Multiple Deterrence Strategy from the Ministry of National Defense. This article covered the strategy of Taiwan's defense and how they plan to deter from any Chinese aggression. They quoted the minister saying, multiple deterrence means having the ability to attack and defend on various fronts and to prevent enemy foes from entering Taiwan by air. Focus Taiwan seems to be keeping to the strategy of keeping brief, informative articles that highlight positive aspects. I was honestly surprised when I tried using CNN as a source for American media. CNN, an American news network that broadcasts 24/7 globally, actually produced only one noteworthy online article covering the issue of Taiwan. The article, labeled "Why is Trump Backing Off His China Threats?", mentioned Taiwan only briefly and more of a strategy rather than a political struggle. The article began talking about President Trump's proposed geopolitical strategy of using American policy towards Taiwan as leverage to make deals with China. The article continues by mentioning that Trump spoke to Chinese President Xi Jinping over the phone, stating that he would actually honor China's One China policy that originated in 1992. In retrospect to this article, it appears that CNN is calling President Trump on his political strategies and really just trying to show his lack of commitment to his own network. Let's look over my analysis for CCTV. Beforehand, I mentioned that I gathered two news articles from CCTV English. Both news articles used in my research by CCTV were in regards to China's view on Taiwan's independence. It should be noted that the media in China is heavily owned by the government, and therefore the articles were extremely brief and narrow. The first article, titled Taiwan Independence Can Never Be Allowed, Chinese Mainland Spokesman, really just stuck to its title. It only covered what a Chinese mainland spokesman had to say on the issue, which is basically that Taiwanese independence could never be allowed. There wasn't much explanation on the topic, and no in-depth analysis of what the statement could mean for the world. The other article basically used a mainland official statement on the matter to slam Taiwanese independence and push for pro-mainland views. This article was even shorter than the previous one, only using at least 2 complete paragraphs. This is a testament of how far the Chinese government will go to promote their political beliefs and to suppress any opposing views. Now, for the conclusion. From the analysis that I did on these articles, it can be argued that each country definitely holds contrasting emphasis on the same issue. For the United States, there didn't seem to be any true sympathy for the Taiwanese population and their struggle. CNN was more focused on Trump's inconsistency and trying to make him look bad than actually go into detail about how Trump's initial aggressive attitude could impact the Sino-American relationship. Focus Taiwan seemed to be the most attentive on the subject, as they reported on a range of subtopics, from military strategies to foreign relations and presidential visits, and even back to the island with welcomed American presence. In contrast to both CNN and Focus Taiwan, CCTV English was the most direct and politically biased news network. This makes sense seeing how the network is owned and controlled by the government. It is intriguing to see just how censored the media in China really is. I theorize that the new Sino-American relationship that could form with Trump's new administration will definitely be eye-opening. Going off on CNN's tactic to publicly shame Trump, I feel that I can share their intuition that Trump will continue this little dog, big bark political strategy. However, that doesn't mean the global public should ignore these rising tensions in the Pacific. China is not a country that likes to be talked down to, and President Trump should take this into consideration. Focus Taiwan mentions the increase in Chinese military drills, and even though this may be just a show of power, China should be seen with caution. Although they're not classified as a superpower officially, China has the military strength and economic foundation to slowly rise to the top. If this is true, Taiwan may be forced to choose between the mainland and the United States, and could possibly see the might of the Chinese will to suppress any relationships with the United States, even if they are unofficial. That concludes my report. Thank you for tuning in.